And thank you very much, Ms. Fields. And I will go ahead and share why we are here today. And I just wanted to say welcome to everybody. We are
Thank you.
very grateful that you joined us this morning to talk about a topic that is very sensitive, but we will talk about it. So today, World Ebony Network and Natural Motion Studios Incorporated is hosting an interactive session for American youths to learn about, reflect on, and engage in talks with youths globally on the views of some Americans and those expressed in the public broadcasting radio station, PBR, that while the Declaration of Independence declared that all men are created equal, endowed with the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, some Americans feel like the laws that followed did not apply to Blacks or Native Americans, nor women, or even immigrants, as some leaders often speak about the United States as a melting pot built by immigrants from all over the world, but the country has not always been welcoming to newcomers either. Interesting as this perspective may be, our research yielded a lot more information than we imagined. Our findings revealed the views of authors like Mr. Cunney, Christopher Cunney, who is with us today, and he emphasized in his 2023 article the need to revisit and reassess the symbols and traditions associated with Independence Day. Also, he stated that while it is essential to honor the founding principles of our nation, we must also recognize that these ideals were not always extended to all citizens. And that article is called Unmasking the Struggle, African Americans and the 4th of July Celebration. According to PBS article, even Black leaders like Martin Delany, Mary Ann Shadd, and Henry Highland Garnet all considered leaving the United States and founding a new country instead, because of the actual facts as it pertains to what was going on in America. However, some authors opine that some Americans honor July 4th as an opportunity to sanctify and reflect, meditating on what America could be, even while many remained enslaved. So the question is, are our youths too young to learn about these views? If America is the land of the free, should their views matter too? Well, anyway, be that as it may, to this end, information is power. So World Ebony Network and Natural Motion Studios Incorporated, against World Ebony Network's backdrop of ethnic equality and equity, will offer our youths the chance to dialogue with youths in other countries on what they've learned about July 4th. And then the adults will come in. You know how we do that. You know, we are with the youth, and then we now take over the conversation. So that's what you might see today. So without further ado, I will now hand it over to yield the floor to the acting chapter president of the DMV area, Miss Jean Fields, to introduce the next session or the next segment. Ms. Fields.
Hello, everyone. I'd like to introduce you to a young lady who's will be very instrumental in the youth of America and the future generations of America. At this time, I'd like to introduce
I'm sorry, Miss Fields.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I know you're gonna send it to me. I know, I know,
Yes,
I
I
know.
was going to send it to you.
I
Camila
know.
DeShazio.
Yes, that's what it was. I didn't have her last name. Camilla, we welcome you. And no, I'm not trying to slight you in the leaders, okay? We're happy to have you aboard. Go ahead with your story, please.
Um, so for school, I live in Maryland. I go to a school called Rosa Parks in a mostly white neighborhood. Um, every summer I go to Miami to visit my dad, and my dad is Chief Omema. He's very important to me. He has a company called Natural Motion Studios, and that's pretty much it.
And Camilla, how old are you?
I'm 11 years old.
Okay. You know,
You
one
have
thing
a
I want to share this about Camilla. The last session that we had, Camilla stated that she felt, and whether she realized it or not, she felt empathy for what was going on. We did a session on Juneteenth, and we shared some background of the slaves in America, but slavery anywhere it is makes no difference. But Camilla was touched by that. And that's an interesting thing, Camilla. I'm gonna tell you, that's never gonna leave you. And it's an important thing to have. Empathy, which is something that a lot of people don't have. So I applaud you for that. Now you may go ahead, please. You can tell your story now. Share your story now. Thank you.
My video?
Yes,
Yes.
your video. Thank you.
This is more of a kid video because I thought there were a few more kids here. So this might be a little silly, but here it is.
Yes, Camilla, do you need help?
Nope, I got it.
Hey, it's
Okay.
Dan Zimmerman.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, we
Yes.
can.
Video where we'll briefly explore the history and celebrations of Independence Day. Independence Day also
Sorry, technical difficulties.
It's okay.
Would you like for me to share?
Yeah, I have really bad Wi-Fi. I'm at a park right now.
Okay. Let's see if I can do a better job. Last time we did it, I was the one having the difficulty. Or
Not
we
just
were the
you.
ones having the difficulty in Maryland.
Yes.
So let's see if that will be better. It looks like the internet is working with us today, Miss Fields. So let's
Good
see how
thing.
long that would last. Okay.
True.
All right. Hold on just a minute. Let's pull it up. Okay, hold on.
I like your hair.
Miss
Camilla,
Fields, are
yes,
you
I'm
talking to
speaking
me?
about you. No, well, your hair is fine. But I was speaking with Camilla at this time.
Okay. All right, here we go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
And can you hear the volume?
No.
Okay, hold on. Let's do it all over again. Bear with us, please, everyone. Share sound. And then let's do it all over again. Okay.
This is the day that Americans celebrate our independence from Great Britain by doing what we do best: blowing stuff up, offering significant discounts on mattresses, driving long distances for uncomfortable family interactions, and eating a lot of grilled meat. Right, so the story goes that the founders of this nation signed the Declaration of Independence on July 4th, 1776, parting ways with King George to found the freest, finest nation on the face of the earth. Yeah, except the Continental Congress actually approved a resolution of independence on July 2nd. The Lee Resolution was proposed by Richard Henry Lee of Virginia in June of 1776 and was a simple legal declaration of separation from England. John Adams got so excited about it that he wrote to his wife Abigail, "The second day of July 1776 will be the most memorable epoch in the history of America. I am apt to believe that it will be celebrated by succeeding generations as the great anniversary festival. It ought to be solemnized with pomp and parade, with shows, games, sports, guns, bells, bonfires, and illuminations from one end of this continent to the other, from this time forward, forevermore." So what happened on the 4th? Well, not that much, actually. The Declaration of Independence was the formal announcement of independence, and its text was approved on July 4th, 1776. The fancy parchment version with all the pretty calligraphy wouldn't get drawn up until July 19th, and most members of the Congress signed the Declaration on August 2nd. Adams may have been wrong about the date, but he was definitely right about the celebration. Americans started celebrating the 4th of July as early as 1777, and as Adams predicted, the holiday was observed with feasts, 13-gun salutes, and fireworks. Why don't we call them illuminations anymore, Stan? You know, people can say, like, oh, we put a man on the moon and we can refrigerate our meat now, but I miss the old days. Anyway, in 1778, George Washington celebrated the 4th by giving his soldiers a double ration of rum, and also there was much more shooting than usual. But while the people celebrated the anniversary from the beginning, the federal government took its sweet time in formalizing the holiday. Independence Day became an unpaid holiday for federal employees in 1870 and became a paid day off in 1938. 4th of July observances have evolved over the years, but they generally involve patriotic displays, including decorations, fire, and explosives. Essentially, we celebrate our independence by having a one-day fake war each summer. Huzzah! Ah, freedom tinnitus. Early observances were marked by huge bonfires, but the litigious nature of modern American society has greatly reduced the number of bonfires. However, we still have a lot of fireworks on the 4th of July. Many cities and towns across the country sponsor fireworks displays on the 4th. New York's fireworks display is the largest in the nation. Despite the grandeur of these officially sanctioned displays, many individuals across the nation feel the need to blow stuff up on their own in their yards because, you know, they have all of their fingers, and that seems like too many. Many states have restricted the sale and personal use of fireworks, freedom haters, but would-be patriots find their way to marginal neighborhoods every year to buy fireworks out of the backs of vans. In my neighborhood, these personal pyrotechnic celebrations start in about mid-May and continue well into August, causing my dog to have a very stressful summer. John Adams' prediction about gunfire holds true as well. On most military bases, 50 gunshots, one for each state, are fired at noon on July 4th as a salute to the Union. And in Stan's neighborhood, where you go to buy the fireworks out of the backs of vans, celebratory gunfire is common throughout the year. Here is an actual bullet hole in Stan's actual window. Stan, can we get the Libertage again? In the 19th century, many ex-presidents celebrated the 4th of July by dying. Both Thomas Jefferson and John Adams died on July 4th, 1826, and James Madison died on the 4th of July in 1831. Calvin Silent Cal Coolidge was born on July 4th, 1876, but as he was never demonstrably alive, no one really cares that much. Finally, lest we forget, Americans also celebrate the 4th of July by eating. Millions of Americans host cookouts to celebrate independence, and the greatest spectacle in professional sports happens every year on the 4th of July. I am referring, of course, to the Nathan's hot dog eating contest. The current world record is 68 HDBs, hot dogs and buns, in 10 minutes. That means the world record holder, Joey Chestnut, consumed about 28,500 calories in 10 minutes. But don't worry, he threw it up shortly thereafter. So happy 4th of July from all of us here at Crash Course. We may not celebrate American independence on the right day, but I would argue that in spite of it all, week. Boop! Crash Course is produced and directed by Stan Muller. The script supervisor is Meredith Danko. Our associate producer is Danica Johnson. Today's show was written by Stan. And our
All right, Miss Camilla, do you want me to show the second one?
Sure.
Okay. All right, hold on a second. Let's try to get that. Our dear audience, please don't be bored. It's very important that we allow Miss Camilla to drive this first part because she is our future. I'm sure you all agree with me. I don't hear anybody saying anything.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
All righty. Miss Camilla, brace yourself for some questions that you'll be answering in a few minutes. All right, hold on. Let's get the second video. There we go.
Hey, it's Dan Zimmerman. Welcome to another Illustrate to Educate video, where we'll
Okay, I did not do something with the volume. Let's do it again.
We could hear it.
Oh, you could hear it. Okay.
Yes, yes.
All righty.
briefly explore the history and celebrations of Independence Day. Independence Day, also known as the 4th of July, is a significant national holiday celebrated in the United States. It commemorates the country's declaration of independence from Great Britain on July 4th, 1776. The history and celebrations of Independence Day are deeply rooted in the historical events that led to America's independence. The road to independence began in the mid-18th century when the American colonies, which were under British rule, started growing discontented with the policies and actions of the British government. Issues such as high taxes, lack of representation in the British Parliament, and restrictions on trade led to increasing tensions. The colonies sought more autonomy and self-governance. On July 2nd, 1776, the Second Continental Congress, comprised of representatives from the 13 colonies, voted in favor of independence. 2 days later, on July 4th, the Congress formally adopted the Declaration of Independence, a document drafted primarily by Thomas Jefferson. The Declaration declared the colonies' separation from Great Britain and proclaimed the inherent rights and liberties of all individuals. I wanted to take a second to show you all this awesome educational resource called America's History by Connor Boyack and Elijah Stanfield. This second volume that covers America's history from 1776 to 1791 goes in depth into the Revolutionary War, the creation of the Constitution, the ratification of the Bill of Rights, and more. It's a captivating and comprehensive guide for kids, young and old, to understand why privacy matters, why the Fourth Amendment was created, and how these ideas still shape our lives today. In over 260 pages, you'll find colorful artwork, graphs, and great insights that not only talk about the events through the discovery of the Tuttle twins, but you'll also read what lessons were learned that relate to us today. Whether you homeschool or not, this is a must-have book to help teach what the education system does not, or rather cannot. Use the link in the description of the video to check out more information on this incredible book. Lastly, let's talk about Independence Day celebrations, which include a wide range of activities and events. The first is parades. Many cities and towns organize parades featuring marching bands, floats, military units, and patriotic displays. Number 2 are fireworks. Spectacular firework displays are an iconic part of Independence Day celebrations. From small communities to major cities, fireworks light up the sky in vibrant colors, symbolizing the rockets and bombs of the American Revolutionary War. The third is picnics and barbecues. Families and friends gather for picnics and barbecues in parks, backyards, and public spaces. And the last is concerts and music. Live concerts featuring patriotic music are held across the country. Bands often perform popular patriotic songs, including the national anthem, the Star-Spangled Banner, and God Bless America. Did you enjoy this video about Independence Day? Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Illustrate to Educate to support more simple and objective videos on topics that matter. Also be sure to check out the link in the description for the fantastic book, America's History.
All right. So very
Thank
much, Ms. Camilla. Back to you, Ms. Fields.
Yes, I want to say thank you so much for that, Camilla. I think that a lot of people who knew nothing about the 4th of July and the celebration in the United States, while they may have heard of it, even in other countries, they now have a good sense of what the 4th of July is about and how it's celebrated. So I really do appreciate what you showed us. And I'd like to know, what did you think you gained from that experience? Miss Camilla?
I learned a lot more about the 4th of July and like the history of it and how like it's not actually the 4th of July. It's similar to June. It was actually June 2nd, not June 4th. Not June 4th. Yeah.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But what are your feelings about the way it's celebrated today?
Some parts I don't agree with. I don't agree with the shooting part, the fire, but I do like the part that people celebrate it with picnics and barbecue as well.
Thank you. Thank you. And I think that goes for so many people. The fact is the ability to come to, or the need to come together with the family and celebrate anything is always a joyous occasion. And okay. So do you know about celebrations of independence in other countries? Or have you heard about celebrations of independence in any other countries?
Actually, not really. I've never really heard of independence celebrations in other countries.
I understand. Yes, that is something that has happened. There is a form of independence by different people for different reasons going on across the globe. And they don't celebrate the way the 4th of July is celebrated, but they did, of course, have some type of celebration at that time. And I'm sorry that I don't have any references to give you right now, but I'll look that up and I'll get back to you with that. But yeah, that was a good and enlightening session, and I appreciate your interaction, Ms. Camilla, and your answers, your valid answers. Thank you. Okay, and so now I think we need to go over to Mr. Cooney because he said that he has something else that he has to do today. Mr. Cooney, I'd like to introduce you. Again, we know you're an author, and you wrote a piece.
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, happy Independence Day to everyone. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to be a part of the program today. Yeah, I took the liberty of writing a commentary or a blog related to the celebration of Independence Day and how certain groups of people see the celebration in different lenses. Many people obviously celebrate what they believe is, America's independence or defiance from England, and the declaration that they made to now start their own country and control their own destiny, and create a society that allows what they state in the Constitution, that all men are created equal and have the indelible right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. But the reality of it too is that during that period of time, there were a group of people who were not, celebrating the independence, and that was the African, and the African American that was brought to this country as slaves, and were considered in many cases property to even some of the founding fathers themselves who drafted the Declaration of Independence. So I wanted to offer a perspective for everyone to consider that the 4th of July isn't always seen to some groups as a symbol of independence themselves, because in their culture, specifically the African American community, we were not, given the rights that our white counterparts were given during that period of time. Now, we do still celebrate this, and we have adopted the premises of the Declaration of Independence. We do strive for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, despite the fact that in many cases, many of our ancestors were brought over as property or slaves. We still do embrace those concepts post, the Civil War, and we were given our independence. Which is why we now choose Juneteenth as our official Independence Day. We also use this day as a period to kind of reflect and ask ourselves, where do we as a community of people of color, where are we in our independence, whether it's economic independence, political independence, social independence? Where is society today? Here in the United States, and where do we have to go such that all men are truly judged by the content of their character and not the color of their skin? So I wanted to just offer that perspective to others that celebrate this day, that this day has really kind of a bittersweet context to those of us of color who are still fighting for, in many cases, our rights. And in some cases, we're seeing some of those rights starting to be taken away by our judicial bodies and by our political officials as well. That being said, we also have a rich history of those of us of color who have fought and died for this country. And we have been an integral part of the development of this country, not only as slaves, but as business owners, as educators, as, soldiers and military, officials, and in all aspects of the American diaspora. So I just wanted to, take a moment to reflect upon that and share my thoughts and feelings about that, and the commentary that I know from many of the colleagues that I interact with of color when we look at this day and we talk about it. Some groups talk about it in fondness, which they have every right to do. But there are some groups that look at this day as one where we still have a long way to go for all communities and all people to truly be able to experience life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So that's kind of my commentary and my thought, and what motivated me to pen the blog. And interesting that you mentioned that, I'm in Atlanta, and I'm actually at a conference today. It's a conference on podcasting and social media, and it's predominantly people of color. And so platforms like the one that we're on right now offer a very powerful tool to educate and bring awareness and advocate for social change. And it's really kind of a beautiful sight to see all the people of color who are at this podcast, at this conference, this summit, the podcast summit, learning more about how to use this platform as a voice. And I highly encourage, us to continue to do that and cultivate young adults like the young lady that just was on to talk about the Declaration of Independence and all subjects, that we use this as a vehicle and a tool for advocating and educating our communities and the communities across the world as well, too. So I'll stop there, see if there are any questions. Hopefully you guys heard me.
Yes, we heard you.
Okay.
Yeah, we did. And we were just thinking about all that you said. That's very powerful, Ms. Fields.
Yes, I apologize. I was on mute and couldn't get away. I wanted to say thank you for your comments. You're absolutely correct. The insight that you brought in is correct. As a Black American, as a fellow Black American myself, I know that the views surrounding July 4th are not always taken the way the founders intended, the founders of America and the ones who celebrated the first Independence Day would like to hear it stated, because you're absolutely right. Rights aren't given to everyone. They're just not given to them. So exactly. What
Yeah,
it
and I
does,
think
it
we
gives
go.
us an opportunity to come together. That's about it.
Absolutely. It gives us as a community the opportunity to come together and reflect on our own journey here in the United States and the things that we need to continue to do to make it better for the next generations. And I think also it gives us a chance to, you know, hold the United States accountable for this whole concept of independence and the Bill of Rights. And so sometimes we think that Bill of Rights is only meant for certain groups of people, when in fact we are a country of immigrants. Or without the only group of people that were here at the time were the Native Americans. So everyone came to this country as an immigrant, and I think throughout our history we have embraced immigrants as a part of our strength and what makes us what makes America what it is. And around the world, I think that's how they envision America, as this country that people can come to from all different backgrounds and cultures, and will be embraced, and they can thrive and be successful in. And I think we still have to continue to hold our political leaders accountable and ourselves accountable for ensuring that those rights are preserved. There appears to be kind of a concerted effort here recently to turn back the clock and marginalize certain communities, communities of people, genders, religious perspectives, et cetera, because it doesn't align with someone else's ideology. And one of the things I think that the founding fathers did do was they wanted to give you the right to worship whatever God you wanted to worship, have freedom of speech, and challenge our government when it has abused its power as well too. The right of free press is also a part of that as well too. And so again, platforms like this give us an opportunity to have that right of free press and to express our own perspectives on the state of our society today. So again, I highly encourage us to continue to reach out to our young folks and encourage them to do the same, and to challenge these communities or these groups of folks who want to again turn the clock back and subjugate individuals simply because they don't look like them, or they're not the same gender, or they don't have the same ideologies as they offer as well too. So, so that's kind of my 2 cents on it.
You're absolutely correct, Mr. Cooney. I'd like to know now at this point, does anyone have any questions for Mr. Cooney? I'm sorry, I don't know who's speaking right now, but it's not coming through clear.
Yeah, need to get closer to your mic.
This is Dr. Mecha. Can you hear me?
Well, we can hear you. So there was a male voice speaking, and we were trying to hear them.
Oh, okay. So, everything that you shared with us, Mr. Cooney, is very powerful. I just wanted to ask you how, since we have a young person in our midst, and that she goes to school, and I'm sure they participate in activities in the school. Do you have any, or what would you advise her, or how would you advise her to conduct herself when she goes to school, learning, now that she has learned that the July 4th wasn't really to the Black people what America,
Sure.
how America saw it. So in order for them not to look at her as someone that is defiant, what would be your advice on how she should present herself? Should she participate in the activities, or should she abstain from the activities? What is your advice?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good question, and I think it depends on each individual's, perception of how they want to, recognize Independence Day. As I mentioned earlier, for some communities, specifically the Caucasian community primarily, this is a symbol for them of their personal independence from tyranny. For us, it wasn't. We were still very much, an enslaved people, and did not necessarily represent our personal independence. Uh, I think you can look at it from a couple different lenses. One, we can use it as a tool for us to reflect on our personal journey here in the United States, from being enslaved during that period up to now, where we are now free, and we have a history of successful contributions to the American narrative as well too, and learning about that, learning about the different people of color who made contributions to this country, whether it was Benjamin Banneker, who was a very successful architect and designer of the Washington D.C. and the almanac, and it created one of the first working clocks in the United States, to Crispus Attucks, who was the first person who actually died in the Revolutionary War, as well too, to people like Harriet Tubman and Booker T. Washington and many, many others throughout our history who made major contributions to fighting for the right and independence of people of color as well too. And so I think it's important, and because in many cases, unfortunately, a lot of these characters or these individuals are not fully explored in our U.S. education system. So we have to take it upon ourselves as adults to make sure that we expose our children to the broader set of history that occurred and how our people made those contributions to our community, and then take those opportunities to expose others within that our education community about these individuals as well. And so when we're touting, George Washington or Thomas Jefferson, we can talk about others of color who are part of that, revolutionary community, that community that helped to fight for independence as well. So I think that's one way to do it in a very positive and constructive way. It's not to necessarily point a finger and say that you're kind of whitewashing our history, but to also, make individuals aware there were people of color that were part of this process as well too. And here's how they contributed to our independence from England, but also throughout the United States history, how we fought for independence for ourselves.
Thank you. Ms. Fields, I would like to ask, or if you would ask Ms. Camilla how she understands what Mr. Cooney had presented to us, and if she has any questions. I'm sure she probably has a lot of questions, right, Ms. Camilla?
I would like to learn more about other things around the world. And I thank you for, I don't really have any questions, but I thank you for having that insight towards me.
Thank you. And thank you for sharing the information you provided, about the 4th of July and our independence. And I, again, just would encourage you to take the opportunity outside of your school to learn more about the African American contribution to the U.S. History and history across the world as well too. We, as a community of people, have had huge impacts, not only just in Africa, but in other parts of the world as well too. And you may not always get that information in your classroom. You're going to have to go online and go to the library and ask other adults who might be knowledgeable about those things to learn more about your culture, because our culture is very rich, and from the Egyptians and building pyramids and studying being some of the first architects and astronomers, farmers, mathematicians, to explorers around the world as well too. We want to think of people like Christopher Columbus is discovering America. Well, Christopher Columbus used African navigators to get to the Americas because the Africans had already been navigating the globe. And so a lot of those times those things aren't taught, within our traditional U.S. education system, and it really is incumbent upon your parents and your community to also give you that knowledge, and for you also to ask yourselves, what else did we people of color do that I can learn more about, and go and research those things and learn more about that as well.
Yeah.
We're very, very proud of you, young lady. Keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, she's a very hardworking lady.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
will tell you that. Yeah, she's destined for great things. Miss Fields, are you back? Okay, so she still might be having technical difficulties. Well, there are people who have logged in from or joined us from different. Oh, okay, Miss Fields, there you go.
Right. I don't know what happened. I just got muted. I mean, I don't know why how it got muted, but it just muted. And yes, so Mr. CUNY, you said a mouthful, and you're absolutely right. What we find in our history books in America about Blacks does not pertain to anything that we really know about ourselves. So it is incumbent on us to share the information that we acquire, either through the internet, through reading, through books, because that's what we have to do. We have to take it upon ourselves to look into our own culture, because in America, it's just not taught.
That's right. And I was really blessed as a kid, that my father was an educator. He was a teacher. My grandmother was a teacher. And when I was a kid, my father also, along with the regular, encyclopedias that we would get back in those days, he also bought Black history books. And so I think I remember distinctly the Ebony had published this Black Encyclopedia, a book of series that, that we had in our home too. So when I was learning about the American history, American Revolutionary War and the traditional encyclopedia, I would also go to the Black encyclopedia and learn about, okay, who are the Black folks that were involved in these things as well too. And there's a rich history of people of color who were very involved in, fighting for this country in its very early stages and throughout our history as well. And so I'm thankful that I had parents who recognized that our history is more than just being slaves, and then, Booker T. Washington and founding Tuskegee, and then Martin Luther King. We have a very rich history of people who fought and defied the odds, not only here in the U.S., but then when you look at places like Haiti, which was one of the only countries that actually successfully succeeded from tyranny by the English, the French as well too, and gained their independence as a country that was primarily people of color, and still today is an independent state as well too, says quite a bit about who we are as people, and some of the things that we've done, to fight for our independence and to create our own communities, or the fact that we had people from, for example, here in the U.S. go back to Africa and establish the country of Liberia as well too, post slavery, and again, and that country continues to thrive today. And so again, I think it's right, exactly, through Marcus Garvey, exactly, and so it's again, and I think that's where, unfortunately, to some degree, we've failed our children as well, that we haven't continued to create venues and foster that knowledge, because I think, if you know your history and you know the contributions you have made to society, you can be very proud to stand up and say that we were an integral part of that, and in fact, in some cases, led a lot of that transformation that happened. But when we don't do that, then our view about who we are and our culture sometimes can be narrow, and we can unfortunately have self-hate sometimes if we don't think that we have been an integral part of society and contributed to that. And more importantly, others will develop that same perspective as well. So when we have the opportunity to educate people who don't look like us more about our history and our community and our contributions, we should take full advantage to do that. And that was part of the other reason why I wrote that blog, because I wanted to make sure they understood why some Black folks aren't all that crazy about 4th of July, and why if you ask us what we didn't necessarily celebrate it the same way you did, with fireworks and waving the flag and, saying the Pledge of Allegiance, when for us, it wasn't a time where we were considered, independent. We were still very much subjugated and treated in a very humane way. Inhumane way. And so it's important for us to bring that narrative to the conversation as well, too.
You're absolutely right. And I want to thank you for that, because we do need to think about what we as Black people have done in America to bring it up, but not just in America, all across the world.
That's right.
What we've done to be beneficial to so many different ethnic groups. When you're right, when you think about the pyramids and how they were actually built, and realizing that it was built by Black people, there's like one solid piece of rock,
right?
And
right.
and how ingenious was that? How was that done at a time when there was no algebra? When I say no algebra, no mathematics per se. Of course, there were mathematics, but not
well, there weren't the technology tools that we have today. And in some cases, even the technology tools we have today can't replicate what was done, centuries ago, which says to some degree they were more advanced than we were even today. And in fact, if you ask a lot of people, where is Egypt? Most people think it's in the Middle East. It's in Africa. It's on the continent of Africa. But a lot of people, you ask most, especially non-people of color, where Egypt is, they tend to think it's in the Middle East somewhere and not on the continent of Africa. And Africa is a very diverse and rich continent. And in fact, a lot of people think Africa is a country, not a continent. And it, has, dozens of countries on that continent. In fact, it is the largest continent on the planet, and even how some of the maps are drawn in a way to make it look smaller than what it really is. But it is the largest continent and one of the most diverse continents in the world. And
resources.
Yeah. And rich and resources and people. And I've had the pleasure of going to West Africa and spending time in Ghana and understanding that history and the slave trade and what happened there as well too. So, we have to educate our communities about who we are as a culture and as people. For example, one of the things I learned, I don't know, a couple of years ago or whatever, Henry Ford wasn't the only person that was creating a car. There was a Black man that actually created one of the first working cars, at the turn of the century as well, and had his own manufacturing business. Unfortunately, like many other communities of color that, were doing things like that, he was not given the opportunity, or in some cases, there was a concerted effort to shut his business down. Or like the Black Wall Streets. There were over 200 different Black Wall Streets across, the United States. We tend to want to think about just Tulsa,
Right.
but there were very thriving communities of people of color, because we were not allowed to be a part of the American experience. So we had to create our own community. So we had, doctors and, theaters and, restaurants, and, we had our own thriving communities for quite some time. And unfortunately, to some degree, desegregation affected us also in a negative way, in that it pulled a lot of those business folks out of those communities, those educators out of those communities, and they started to assimilate in the broader white communities and really drained, the knowledge, the resources, the turnover of our dollar in those communities as well too. And so we've got to recognize that we bring a lot to the table, and we got to think about ways of returning back to a place where we can turn those dollars back over more than once in our own communities.
You're absolutely right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
This is
And I
very
do
interesting.
apologize. I am actually at a conference today, specifically a conference focused on podcasting, and the majority of the people here are people of color. So as I applaud you for having a platform like this to continue to educate and bring awareness of the African diaspora, African American, Black diaspora to a broader audience. And I'm excited to see the number of people here who are wanting to bring that perspective to the table too, because just like any other community, we're a multifaceted community as well too. We have all different interests and pursuits, and we're not we're not single thought, single minded, single perspective. And platforms like this give you an opportunity to share those perspectives as well. So I commend you on your efforts. I applaud the young lady for coming on and sharing her perspective and being a part of the next generation of folks who will be our next leaders of color in our communities as well. So happy Independence Day and belated Juneteenth as well too. And I look forward to continuing to support this program in the future.
Thank you very much, and happy Independence Day to you as well.
You too. Take care.
Yes, it was very insightful what you brought to the table, and so we do appreciate you. We applaud you.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Take care. God bless.
Even taking the time to write that type of book, because it is educational, and that's a lot of what we need, educational. So thank you very much, and I'm sure that you'll have a very successful podcast seminar there in Atlanta.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, I actually have my own podcast as well too. I'll just share it with you. It's called Straight Out of Health IT, and you can find it on all the different platforms. Straight Out of Health IT, and we talk about all things healthcare related. And there's definitely a spin around health equity and what's happening in our communities of color as well as beyond as well too. So would encourage you to check us out, and I appreciate your support as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Cooney. You would there are some people that have questions from Nigeria, and one of them is a celebrity. He's a producer. However, whatever questions he asks us, since you're leaving, we can share those questions with you, and that way, if you have additional input on the questions, you can always send it to us in writing, and then we can send it to him.
Absolutely. And I'm on LinkedIn as well too. You can always connect with me there as well. I'm actually looking to work with some folks to support some initiatives in Nigeria as well too. So would love to connect with anyone there and just in the African diaspora in general. So I accept every LinkedIn request, so don't hesitate to reach out. And again, my email address, you can find me at CKUNNEY 64 at gmail.com. That's CKUNNEY 64 at gmail.com. That's my personal email. Feel free to reach out to me there as well.
Thank you so much,
Mr. Cooney. And I would also talk, you were talking about a project that you have in Nigeria, and there are some wonderful things that we're doing there, especially a project that we call Chiefs for Change. And that's where we are nominating people who can be installed chiefs. And those chiefs become ambassadors. They also become members of the traditional rulers cabinet. And then I'll be, by God's grace, God willing, driving past Atlanta to go to Miami to they will reenact the ceremony that they just did for Chief Kenyatta. That's Camila's father and another person. But there are a number of other people from that community in Miami that want to go to Nigeria, because Camila's father went to Nigeria last year. I'll talk more about it. I'll share that information with you, and then we can. Yeah.
Please do
Okay.
reach out to me about that. I've done some work in West Africa, specifically Ghana, through an organization called Caring Meds. We've done medical missions to Ghana. We're partnered with a local university there to develop a nursing program and a telemedicine program. And I've actually been there on some medical missions as well, too. So would love to support, what's happening in Nigeria and any of the, African countries that could use our support.
Oh, excellent. Very good.
Okay. All
Okay.
right. Take care.
Well,
All right.
thank you. Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. Ms. Fields, Mr. Joshua Annie has some questions. Is in Nigeria. Ms. Fields?
Okay. Can you
I
hear me?
think he's the one. Yeah, we can hear you, Mr. Joshua. His name is displaying as Baron Vibes. If you would call on him, he said he has some questions.
Mr. Barry Vibes, please, you're welcome to the floor. It's open. Thank you.
Okay. Greetings.
We can't see your video.
What's wrong with my video? Okay, that's it. I'm here.
We can see you now.
All right. I'm glad to be participating in this insightful step. To me, is a whole lot. Like the last speaker actually shared a whole lot of insight towards the Independence Day on the 4th of July, categorically stating that on the 4th of July, I call them our ancestors who were there in diaspora, more especially in America. They were not still free per se. The independence was not for them. So, but I don't know if he was around, I would have loved to drop some questions. But since you said you can also direct the questions to him later on, since this particular idea of
Miss Fields can
Day,
also answer too, because Miss Fields is actually older. She's 72 years old. So she also
73.
Yeah. Oh, 73. You can imagine she looks
No,
looks 50 something.
She's elderly, that's all.
I did what?
No, she yeah, so she has a lot of information about that. So I'm sure she can answer some of it too.
Okay. So I was trying to ask, for some of us who are over here in Africa, we've already known that on the 4th of July is always Americans' independence, regardless of the color over there. Now, I don't know, bringing up this mindset or this concept, which to me, it's actually very, very correct from the thoughts and the amazing words and other things that have been shared here. I'm asking, how do we get to let other people in Africa try to honor this, try to understand this aspects, this concept per se? Is there any plan to help other Africans understand this and honor it? Because believe me, by joining this meeting and by listening to almost everyone that have actually contributed speak, I solely believe that by the time the Americans had their independence, our ancestors there were not independent. But now, other people that have not been part of programs like this, how do we get people in Africa to honor this perspective?
Right. I totally understand what you're saying. The problem is that America does not share this information outside of its walls. They barely share it within. So the only way that this information can be shared is through word of mouth, basically. Now it has been written into books. At one time, it wasn't. You know, I shared this the last time we spoke with people. When I was going to school, there was barely a paragraph about the Black American, excuse me, in the history books. And when it was there, it was kind of like just like an afterthought. It basically talked about the creation of the cotton gin. It didn't talk about the enslavement at all. It didn't cover the fact that children were ripped from their parents, that people were sent off just to mate, okay, so that they can have children, and they would select a big woman and a large man because they wanted productive slaves. So they wanted the children of that union to be able to be productive. So, you know, I also say, last time that I spoke, I said, well, you know, I don't want people to come away angry because that's what it will do to you, but just to become more knowledgeable. Did I answer any of your questions? No.
Yes.
Okay. The other thing, the other part of it is another thing that I spoke about the last time was that we used to share stories amongst each other. We would have conversations amongst each other, and that's how we would gain knowledge and share knowledge about what we knew about our own ancestry, because it wasn't written down. It wasn't a thing that you could pick up. Well, you can pick up books now, but at that time you couldn't pick up books, just pick them up, you know, about slavery, because they just didn't exist. So I think that that's pretty much what's going to have to be done through Africa. I do understand that there should be an educational process, a dialogue. I find myself speaking to other ethnic groups with color, and I explain to them different aspects of it. But in all sincerity, there is no way that you could explain everything that's going on, you know, in America as far as slavery is concerned. So it's going to have to be pretty much word of mouth. Okay, and I'd love to see some type of organized educational curriculum to come about. But again, what happens, America doesn't want that out. They don't want that information outside of its walls of America. It's a dark blight on American history to have the idea, even just the idea of slavery in a country that's supposed to be free and readily available to all people, when it's not true.
Okay.
So how would you want to spread an untruth about yourself? They don't want to do, you know, that. Well, they do spread an untruth about themselves, but would you want to spread the truth? Air your dirty laundry, because that's what it amounts to.
Can I say something?
Yeah,
Okay.
before you make a suggestion, let me add a little bit to what Ms. Fields said. So you see that we have chapters that we are setting up, or some of them have already started. Like we have a chapter in Ahafia in Ebem. And so one of our goals is to have, you know, during like Juneteenth, those kinds of holidays, to celebrate it there, or to educate them in chapters in Africa. And then that way we can have that dialogue and learn more too, because we know that information, you know, like books and all that, they're not available. So we will try to see if we can get those kinds of, you know, books to help with the understanding.
That's fine as well. But can my suggestion is actually on also making sure that people get to say this. We live in a world where information can easily be circulated through visuals. I happen to be a movie producer, and then I think this information can actually go through very well and can sink into people if maybe short clips or maybe feature films can actually be done, where I know so much that very much possibly the Americans might not have a way to restrict it, especially when it comes to the distribution of the movie. The movie can be on the YouTube, the movie can be on major mainstream lines, and there are so many Africans in America that can find their way. There are filmmakers that I know, or you can also find, just to write a little story around it and present it. That's one. Then two, if you check on the internet very well, you will see that there's something that is trending. It's on called podcast. People do
I'm sorry, could
podcasts.
you repeat that?
You said what?
Could you repeat that, please? You said there's something on the internet, and what did you say? I'm sorry.
Yes, there's something on the internet that is trending. It's called podcasts.
Oh, podcasts. Yes.
You get that, right? Yeah. So
yes, you know,
and actually get.
I watch a lot of the Nigerian movies. I shouldn't say Nigerian because I watch them all. So, you know, when you speak to that, and you're absolutely right, the stories that are portrayed, the information that's disseminated to all people is very interesting. It's not that Americans would stop the production. It's that they wouldn't they wouldn't necessarily support it. And it's true. We shouldn't look for somebody else to support what we want to do. But you're absolutely right. I think that.
So when I talk about the podcast as well, there's something about podcasts. Podcast on podcast on, you have to stream directly from either your Facebook or your YouTube pages or your Instagram pages. Now, just like how this meeting has happened now, that's how podcasts happen, but it has to be people sitting in a particular room or a studio with microphones and a phone that can be able to, a high quality phone that can record them. Maybe an iPhone 12, 13, 14, and 15 that can record them very well, and it's being edited so well. Now, that gives everyone opportunity to air their view on this. Then when you let it out, definitely people will get to comment, ask questions, and do a whole lot, try to gain a whole lot from the podcast that will be released. So maybe while we look at the movies as well, you can also look at the podcast to see if it's something that can fly. Possibly in the next edition of something like this, maybe a podcast can comfortably fly. It will reach more people. Like you all you just need to do is to get influencers, people that are popular on either Facebook or Instagram or YouTube or TikTok. Yeah. So you just try to get them involved in the podcast. Before you know what's happening, the whole world is talking about it already.
Thank you so much. You know, you brought up an excellent idea. You have excellent ideas in your brain. You do. Okay. Because you're absolutely right. I guess the idea of doing something like that to educate Africans about what has gone on in America would be very good. I'm just thinking about different things right now. I'm sorry, but I'm just thinking. My mind is running, thinking about what you just said just now, because that would be an excellent way to educate people in Africa. Because it was interesting, the last time we had this, we spoke to someone about Juneteenth, and they were coming from Africa, and they were like, I'd never heard of it. They had never heard about Juneteenth. And it's not something that they should feel ashamed of not of knowing about, because the reality is it's America that needed to get it out. And you're right. I guess as Americans, we need to look at it from a point of, no, we need to get, it's not that we think our story's out, but we don't realize it hasn't reached out as far as we thought it did. We know that Blacks in America know what's going on. We know that George Floyd was a big eye opener for a lot of people across the world, because prior to that, they didn't know that there was injustice done because of the color of your skin by the police department, and that it was sanctioned by the police department. That was something that they didn't know. So you're absolutely right, and I thank you for that idea. That is an excellent one, and we need to stay in touch with you and see what we could do in terms of doing that. Now, I know you told us to do it ourselves. We need to do one of the meetings, one of the next ones that we do. set it up as podcast. I believe this is a live feed now to Facebook. Is that correct, Dr. Essay?
Yes,
That
it
is
is
it.
correct. It is correct. Yes.
Right. So
I
that's
actually shared that link. I've shared the link with Mr. Joshua.
okay, good. That's an excellent idea because what happens is that you do reach a much broader audience. And I think if we could do something like that and put it on a TikTok, you know, see, unfortunately, I don't know how to do TikToks. I really don't. And I've tried to learn. I've tried to make it. And I know people are doing it all around the world. I'm like, I don't know why, Gene, you can't get this. But yeah, because TikToks, but my background shows whatever is behind this, whatever is behind what I'm talking about, which is not what I want. I want it to be a solid background. But yeah, so as a matter of fact, I'm gonna work with this guy. I'm gonna call him up and work with him because I just got his number and I'm gonna see what he can do. But you're absolutely right. It's like just take pieces of it to let people know what's actually going on. And I think TikTok would for us would be an excellent way because TikTok goes around the world. And not to say like the other areas do too, but my understanding is that TikTok automatically goes, as opposed to you have to target other areas or have to be accepted and kind of give permission. I don't think you don't have to do that with TikTok. So I thank you for your insight, your ideas. Yes, definitely, definitely. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And did you have any other questions?
Well, the other question I would have asked, although doctor said the answer as well, is when the other speaker, the last speaker, I think Kuni, I've forgotten.
Yes.
Yeah, was talking about. He mentioned about subjugation. He said they were subjugated during the independence period. And I was just trying to ask, was there any kind of tyranny that occurred during that same period?
I'm sorry, I missed the last part. You said that he asked what?
He always talked about subjugation, like our people were subjugated during the independence period, when the Americans had their independence. So I was like, was there any tyranny that occurred during that period?
No, there was no tyranny during that period. During that period, that was just after the Civil War. And there was a thing called, at that time, was called Jim Crow. And Jim Crow was a way to keep the African slave in place. You were no longer referred to as a slave, but you were treated as you had no rights. Okay. And that's what it was. And it was like a law, kind of like a law, like a mandate. They used to have these things, and I'll tell you this. They used to have these things that they called the Willie Lynch papers. And this guy, Willie Lynch, wrote a paper about how to keep slaves and how to treat them during times of slavery. So it would say, you know, different things. What they say is that the paper, some places say that the paper was fictitious. Some places say that it was real. The thing, he did exist. And this is what he taught to the other slave owners, how to keep your slave in check. So when you see something like that being done, then after that, after slavery was over, there was a thing called Jim Crow. And the Jim Crow laws, and I say that laws, were another way to keep Africans down. Okay. So that if you went certain places, you know, it's interesting. I was going to do a piece on that, and we weren't going to talk about that this time. But yeah, there were certain things that you could and could not do as a Black American. And that was another way to keep people in check, to keep them down. You couldn't own, it's like you couldn't own land, you couldn't go to school, you couldn't do, these were the things that happened. So now if you look at it, you know, and we talk about it, when you can't own land, you can't prosper. Because when it comes to the banks, what do you have for collateral? You have nothing. So that's another way just to keep us down. When the gentleman referred to Black Wall Street, when he was talking about the devastation of the city in Oklahoma City, okay, it started because this guy, he stepped on this woman's foot. He didn't do it intentionally. When she fell, he tried to reach out to help her. Well, she said that he had tried to attack her. And retribution, why did the whole white community feel that they had to destroy Wall Street? Because they were jealous of them. You know,
Let me
so
also add to what Ms. Fields is saying. It wasn't even just a destruction, it was a massacre.
Oh yeah, it was
the
a massacre.
entire place was razed down, and that was in 1921 to 1920, May 31st, 1921 to June 1st, 1921. So do you remember when the guy was talking about where they had doctors and all that? It wasn't where they had built up this community that had everything in it, that other communities were coming there to borrow money from them. That's why Ms. Fields mentioned Black Wall Street. That's why, if you know what Wall Street is today, that's how it was
the economic,
then.
yeah, it's the economic backbone of America. Well, shouldn't say that. It was definitely the economic background. It definitely is the economic background of New York City.
So
but
they said it's
about
considered.
The stock exchange,
oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, but when you start talking about the stock exchange, that's where it's housed in New York City. So when you start talking about the Wall Street is the place that it's located. So when they start talking about the Black Wall Street, well, that's where economy exists. That's where it all stems from. When they talk about the S&P going up and down, that's where it's done at. When I say it's not that it's actually done there, but the figures are computed and calculated and disseminated from there. And that affects the world. Well, it does affect the world economy, but it definitely affects the United States economy. The interest rates and all of that all comes back to where that is controlled. So when you start talking about an interest rate on a loan, per se, like if you're buying a home, the interest rates go up and down. It fluctuates. It's based on the S&P, which comes out of Wall Street. Does that make sense?
Mr. Joshua? Okay.
Mr. Joshua?
Hello. We see. One thing I want our people to certify me. Where did we drop the ball? If we build the pyramid. We invented the Arabs invented algebra, quadratic equation. The Chinese invented gunpowder, everything. Where did we drop the ball?
We dropped the ball when
where did we drop the ball? Because Booker T. Washington was before Martin Luther. We had before the Jim Crow, we had more Africans who were educated than the whites. Where did we drop the ball?
It was the implementation.
We dropped where did we drop the ball? Because it's good to say, oh, these people did us this, these people did us this. What did we do to ourselves?
Ms. Fields, let me take a stab at that. Let me take a stab first, if that's okay with you, Ms. Fields.
I said, go ahead.
Okay, good. One of the places, well, I wouldn't call it. Okay, we didn't drop the ball in this instance that I want to share. It was a destruction of the things that we have built, which is still the same Black Wall Street that I'm talking about. And at that time, 800 people were admitted in the hospital, and 6,000 Black residents of Tulsa were interned in large facilities. The entire community was literally bombed. They had, what do you call it? They were throwing bombs in the area and raising it If you have 800 people and 6,000 homes and stuff like that, out of those places would have been the doctors, the lawyers, and people who had actually that were very wealthy. So that's one dent in the economy already, right? I mean, I know that's Tulsa.
I know, go ahead.
So that's, in that case, we didn't drop it. That would have been somebody, that would have been putting them in a position to start all over again. And it's not really easy in an economy that wasn't helping them out. Sorry, Ms. Fields. Go ahead, Ms. Fields.
Not just in an economy that wasn't helping us out, and in an economy that didn't want us to go anywhere. Here, that's the thing. It's like what Malcolm X said. We didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on us. Now, it's true that we have to make our own way, no question. But we're fighting an uphill battle each time we try to go up, each time we try to raise our heads. Or we were fighting an uphill battle. When you start talking about Jim Crow laws, okay, when you start understanding that you weren't allowed to do anything, you know, that when you went into a place and they saw your application and thought you might be Black, they didn't hire you. So it wasn't a matter of whether or not you had the knowledge. It was the fact that you weren't given the opportunity to show your knowledge. So it's not about dropping the ball. It's about having the ball taken away and somebody taking that ball and going home and locking it in their house. The same ball that you wanted to play with. Does that make sense to you?
Okay, now, between this, for how long now has, how many decades?
You know, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying for real. But let me just explain this to you, okay?
How many decades now? And what I want to say is, what is the ratio of the disparity gap now in relation to disparity gap then?
I understand, but let me just say one thing to you, and then you can have it. Zig Ziglar wrote a book, and I think anyway, Zig Ziglar wrote a book, and the name of the book was "See You at the Top." Now, Zig Ziglar was a salesperson, but that's one of the theories that he gives. One of the examples that he gives in his book is this: he has a glass, and he puts fleas in the glass. And the fleas keep jumping up and jumping up and jumping up and jumping up all over the glass. Then he takes the glass and he puts a cover over the glass. And he puts that cover over the glass and leaves it there for a period of time. Then he takes the cover away. And he notices that the fleas will only jump as far as they did when the cover was on. They're no longer jumping outside of the glass. And that's pretty much what happens. Black people became afraid. That I can't say it any better than that, because when you look at John F. Kennedy, John F. Kennedy was for civil rights, for the Black people, and they believe that's why he was killed. Martin Luther King, that's why he was killed. Malcolm X, that's why he was killed. Okay, so then you start saying, oh, what's going to happen now? Not that many people want to stand up. Now, I named a few people that were killed. I didn't name all of them. So then when you have another Black person who could possibly be a leader, you have a person, most especially you have is people that love him around him. They say, oh, please don't do that. Please don't do that. We know we need you to do that, but please don't do that. That's what happens. That's what happened. Now, I don't say that that's the right thing that should have happened, but that is what happened. It wasn't a thing where people just said, "Oh no, I don't feel like saying anything." No, it was a tactic that was used to suppress. It was like, okay, you want to open up your mouth, I'll kill you. What kind of effects do you think that had on people?
Ms. Fields, since it's 12:30 something, remember how Kenyatta? Well, thank you for that answer, and Chief, thank you also too. And I'm not taking this away from you, Ms. Fields. I just wanted to remind us that Kenyatta had desired to for someone to come talk about somewhere in Africa where freedom was taken away from the people. Remember, he talked about Biafra, right? So I found someone from the let me see what the name of his organization is. The name of his organization is Igbo Union Organization, DMV area, and his name is Mr. Felix Obioha. And then he wanted you to talk about, you know, where freedom was taken away from your people, and in comparison, well, not really in comparison. I guess at the end of the day, it's looking at how you can still climb out of that subjugation, or out of that you know, stronghold, because even now Africa in a way is still kind of like colonized, if I would put it that way. The mindset, which is what Miss Fields was almost like trying to paint a picture, if I can use that word, like, right, Miss Fields?
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. But I'd like to hear this too, because that was something that I was very interested in, how other countries, what their perception is of we talked about that, how other companies were affected by because I call it global, because it's not global enslavement, it's not the same, but it is still okay. Please introduce the gentleman and let him speak. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So Mazi Felix Obioha, I would like you to introduce yourself, and then please, if you can do this within, because we have 12:37 right now, and if you have 10 minutes to tell us about Biafra, we would really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I know he said something about his audio was giving him a problem, but let me see if he can try to unmute himself, because I'm trying to unmute him and it won't.
Okay, while he's unmuting himself, can I say something, please? Based on
Yes,
what
sir.
we're discussing, local comes in. Okay, the other uncle asked about where we dropped the ball. Please, I'm sorry to take us back a little, but I think there's something I just want to share on that before Mazi comes up. Okay. Now, I feel there's something that is happening. Africans did not stop being creative. Africans did not stop and being innovative and the rest. But now I think the whole slavery stuff did not just end by taking people out of Africa and bringing them to America or the rest of other European countries and other places. They now brought it down to the African countries. Now, what I mean by bringing them down to the African countries is they have to make it look like you just have to follow whatever process they've brought in. If not this process, you cannot be able to achieve anything. And they are controlling the same process at the same time. So thereby they brought in serious poverty. And we now became dependent on them. So the time you're supposed to use to create, the time you're supposed to use to innovate, you're using it to fight hunger. You're using it to fight poverty. You're using it to try to make yourself better. For instance, if you're able to create or formulate a drug, like I once had a lecturer that formulated a drug that he can use to cure what's it called, HIV and AIDS, when I was in the University of Nigeria. Funny enough, veterinary medicine doctor, was a veterinary medical doctor. He found it, and up till now, they've not given him any serious patents over it. And he has been calling people to come to his hospital so that he can treat them. Now, that particular aspect is being blocked entirely. And I know it's being blocked because it's coming from a black man. If it had been a white man that has been able to write this formula and has been able to create this medicine. By now, it would have been something else. Now, another thing is, on the other hand, he might have been able to create this amazing medicine, but the people that controls, I don't know, but I think let me use this language. The people that controls this world might find a way to lobby him, give him some money, like much more than he will expect, and he will lie low. So thereby fighting the same hunger. He just wants to make money. For instance, anybody that comes to, I'm sorry, but it's actually a mindset of myself. Anybody that comes to America or Europe from Nigeria or from other African countries is coming to better his or her life.
Right.
Not, and it's not supposed to, okay. It's not supposed to be like that. It's supposed to be, if you're coming into America, if you're coming into Europe, you're coming in with your own creative mindsets, and the ground is level for you to exhibit. But now, if you're coming in, you have to start from fighting hunger first. There are people waiting for you in Africa for you to send money to them, to feed them. You have some other things that you know you want to do at home. You want to make this money first, thereby your own major, what do I call it? What you know you want to create, or what you have created, or where you think you can go to, it's being limited. I think that's what is the major thing that is limiting the Africans, aside bad governance.
I understand what you're saying, and you're absolutely right. Because what happens is that when people became free, it was then, how am I going to feed myself? How am I going to find housing? How am I going to be able to afford housing? How am I going to feed my children? Those are things that are very, very serious and very real. And so the focus becomes then on what was wanted. A focus comes away from stepping up to maintaining. Okay, so if I can keep you fighting for just maintaining yourself on how to eat and how to, then I don't have to worry about you going up, because you got to focus on taking care of your family. You know, like as you say, we're sending money back home. Okay, yeah, all of this stuff is real. So I can't really fight you if I'm busy fighting all these things. So it's not that somebody dropped the ball. It's that there's so many balls to keep up in the air at the same time. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Why didn't the Chinese, why didn't the Chinese listen? Why didn't they affect the Chinese?
Chief, we can't see your face. We can't see your face, Chief. Sorry.
The Chinese, they went to China. Why did they affect the Chinese in their psyche, in their thinking? Why did the Chinese?
They didn't enslave. They didn't enslave them. See, one thing that happened some time ago, white people declared that they were superior to Black people. They declared that, and so they started treating them that way.
They went to Mongolians. The white people went to Mongolians. The white people did not start from Europe. They went to Mongolia. The people didn't accept them. You know?
Right.
So
right.
Why is it Africans dropped the ball? Because the Africans exhibited a lot of, with due respect, low intelligence.
You said they exhibited a lot of no intelligence?
They exhibited, yes, they exhibited it in read books, they exhibited it in all sense of life. In all sense of life. Even up to today, they still exhibit it. Because even if the typical African man home now, if you get to his house, you have a big television and a small library. Get to the average European, he has a small TV and a big library. We are not long learners. We don't want to learn.
No, we learn fast, but we learn the wrong things.
We don't want to learn new skill. We don't want to be adaptable. We don't
Chief,
want. We are not innovative. We don't
I
take
think
risk. We want all entitlements.
Okay.
no. Chief, I beg to differ on this.
Yeah, I just, don't. I'm trying to get.
Chief,
I'm trying to
yeah,
figure out where all this black bashing is. All this black bashing is coming from.
Let us tell ourselves the truth.
to be sincere, Chief, can you see this from another perspective? Can I share it from another perspective?
Yes, share it. That's a good idea. That's share it.
All right. These people we are talking about here, the blacks who are currently in Africa, they were colonized.
No, I'm talking about the blacks, not blacks here. Blacks everywhere.
Okay, blacks, both those in America.
Yes, everywhere. You find them in Brazil.
Okay,
today in Brazil, 40% of Brazilians are blacks. So it's not.
They were colonized.
It's not everywhere they're in the minority.
Mr. Joshua, he's also talking about post-colonization too. He's talking about recent times, right? How far back are you talking about, Chief?
No, it's the colonization that brings in the post-colonization. Let me give an instance. In Nigeria, for instance, we were not, all parts of Nigeria were not colonized the same way. The way they colonized the people at the northern part of Nigeria were not the same way they colonized the people at the western part of Nigeria. They were not also the same way they colonized people at the southern part of Nigeria, the eastern part of Nigeria. Even in the eastern part of Nigeria, the way some of us in the eastern part of Nigeria were colonized was not the same way other people were colonized. Let me use my place as an instance. I'm from Ohafia in Abia State. The way a typical Ohafia man was colonized is not the way an Ongwa man was colonized. Now, a typical Ohafia man was colonized by the missionaries, bringing in the gospel, bringing in the schools, trying to teach these people and the rest. And today, I bet you find most professors in Abia State from Ohafia. Today, you find most people in the civil service job in Ohafia. They are from this place. They are not traders. They were limited. When it comes to trading, they were limited. When it comes to artistry work, which were originally their works, many people left their artistry works to go do civil service job because that's where money was coming from. Everybody wanted to look like this man that came in. Everybody wanted to live their kind of life, to live the life that they brought down to us. And this is yet to leave us. So when you're coming into another country, or you're going to America or to another place, or you're being moved to that place, you're trying to level up and live like them, and not to live like yourself and create your own stuff, because the space is not even there for you. You have to look like them, join them first, live in their own space before you can be able to create and be fully accepted. You can't just wake up one morning like that and create on your own and want to announce it. Unless, for instance, we were trying to talk about Biafra, a particular set of group of people, the Igbos, that were denied freedom. Unless things like Biafra happens, where you see people having the same ideology, the same mindset, the same artistry, the same education, the same almost everything, they can be able to sit on a table and tell themselves that, okay, at this point, this is what we think we can be able to do so that the whole world can listen to us, and we'll fix things, we'll do this, we'll do that, we'll do this, we'll do that, we'll do that. Before you know what's happening, everything is beginning to work out. But when you have a whereby in a place, different people are in that same place, when I bring out an opinion, and that person will actually counter the opinion because he feels the opinion is not going to benefit him or her, or the opinion is not coming from him or her, so it's not going to work. It's not going to strive.
Baron.
Yes.
Baron. Yeah, I would like to disagree with you on the issue of colonization. The British colonization system of Nigeria was all the same, right? We're all colonized with the same system. The only problem they had was that in northern Nigeria, it was a bit easy for colonization to take place because they had the caliphate system. Same thing in the western part of Nigeria. They had mini kingdoms.
Hello,
but, hold on. But in Igboland, the eastern part of Nigeria per se, there were not such structures. Now, that's on colonization. Then the other thing I would like to say, I think I would like to agree with Marx. I think that's his name, the elderly man that talked. because when the Europeans came, like if you go to China now, the Chinese, they still use their language when they are having a meeting. When the white man came over to Africa, right, they painted everything about African culture. They painted it back. That's really what happened. They came with the Bible in one hand, and they came with a gun in the other hand. That's how colonization took place. You understand me?
Remember, I used my place as an example. That was not how my place was colonized, and that was not how many people actually.
The colonization, the British colonization system, the French colonization system was assimilation. All right, and the British came, and what was the British system called? I can't remember what the British.
Assimilation.
Yeah. Hello.
Go ahead.
Yeah. The French colonial system was by assimilation, I think. And I can't remember what the British colonial system was called per se. But what I'm trying, let's step forward to the present time, maybe, right? Barack Obama was the president of this country called America, and he was a black man, right? And he didn't contribute anything to the African continent.
That's true.
He ended up killing a man called Muammar Gaddafi and causing confusion in that country.
That's true.
Muammar Gaddafi was a man that wanted African unity, wanted the whole of the EU to be one, Africa to be one. And what did Barack, the son of Obama, do? They killed the same
him.
Muammar Gaddafi.
And Libya is not finished.
Yeah.
He's now on the system he found himself.
Yeah. Libya is now in chaos because of that singular act of Barack Obama. I don't have anything against. I'm from Nigeria. I'm an Igbo man. My name is Akachukwu Azubikache. Yeah. I don't have anything against my brothers and sisters, the Black Americans, right? Yeah, but I think most of them have a lot to learn about Africa. That's how I see it. For instance, if we're talking about the pyramids, the first organized university in the world was in Africa, was in Timbuktu, and a lot of that. And my brother Max was talking about the Chinese. Till today, the Chinese, if they're having a meeting with you, they don't speak English, they speak in Chinese. They speak their local Chinese language when they're having a meeting with you. So it's we Africans, we Africans, we have a lot to bring to ourselves by being proud of our heritage. That's how I see it. Thank you.
No, I agree. We do have a lot to be proud. Well, I say we. Plus, I'm speaking about Black people, period. To me, they're resilient. You know, they've been displaced and placed everywhere, but we still survive. And that's just how I see it. But I understand what you're saying, and thank you.
Yeah.
So basically, looks like what I'm getting, Miss Chineye has a question, I think. She wants to say something. Miss Chineye? Chinecherem, Miss Okoye, I think you're trying to say something, right?
No, it was not. It's not a question. I was just trying to say that due to want of time, if it's possible, let's proceed to the talk about Biafra. Yes.
Unfortunately, looks like because if you saw in the, I don't know if he put it there for everybody to see, but he said he was having audio problems, and now he's having a full technical problem. Okay, he just said so. He says sorry. He says my workers were calling. Okay, let me see. Are you able to come in now? Yeah, okay. Because we have 5 minutes, I think, and we don't want to exceed 2 o'clock, and we can leave it for another time. Miss Fields, Chief, what do you guys think? Should we postpone the Biafra talk to another time?
Yeah, I would like to hear it, but if he's not able to come in now, did you say he was able to come in at all? You said no, right?
Is there any likelihood he will come in?
Well, that's what I'm trying to find out, but it looks like I don't know. I tried to call him a number of times, but he wasn't answering.
Well, I guess that we would have to table that for now and look to do something, look to have him come back and have him speak, because it would be it's a very important part.
Yes, I would like to make my view known about it.
Please do. Chief, yes, let's have Chief, because Chief was a soldier and his son. He was a soldier. He fought during that war. So
I would like my view to be known about it.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Chief.
Go ahead, Chief.
You.
Somebody's talking now.
Me.
No.
Chief Maxwell, please speak.
No, someone has to talk about Biafra. I didn't make my view known about it.
He's not able to come through.
Okay.
Maybe the difference.
I can hear a little bit.
So Chief, he's not able to come. So do you want to
He's not
talk
able to
about
come
it,
through,
or you still want to wait till he says something first?
Another day. Today is let me go and do my barbecue.
All right.
You celebrating your independence?
Yeah, right. The weather here is okay. The weather is okay, but let me get out and.
All right, Miss Fields, I'll yield the floor to you to wrap up and then dismiss us.
Well, again, this is a timely, an informative meeting, and I love it. Okay, I can't wait to get back. I want to learn some more things, and I think this is an excellent time. I want to thank God for bringing us all together and allowing us to have our say and allowing us to be informed and enlightened today. And I thank God that that people feel that they want to participate and don't feel hindered by anything. I just love the opportunity that God gave us, because He allowed us to use this platform. He made it, you know. We say He made it because He put it in somebody's mind. And so I thank Him for that. And I thank Him for all of you who came and participated. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll get you, Max.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Okay.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful 4th of July.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks again for all of you who came. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. It was nice joining you all. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Nice
You're
having
welcome.
you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for having me. Thank you for all the things you shared. I learned a lot. I was just quiet, listening, learning. Thank you.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you for being here. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it. We appreciate the fact that you took the time out of your schedule to be a part of this. Thank you. Oh, someone's coming in.
Radio.
Someone's